Good morning. I am Dr. Othonos. I am the president of the Homeopathic Academy, the association, the Greek association that conducts these lessons, the free e-learning lessons, international lessons, together with the collaboration of the Classical Homeopathy Data Bank and the Marathon International Summer School for Classical Homeopathy. In the previous lessons, we have talked about the psoric miasm and the constitution that is representative, most representative, according to my opinion, to psoric miasm, that is Natrum muriaticum. And in the last lesson, we have talked about Mendorinum, the constitution Mendorinum, which is the typical representative of the psychotic miasm. In this lesson, we will complete this circle of talking about typical representatives of miasms, and we will talk about the constitution Lachesis, the chronic constitution Lachesis, which is the typical representative of the syphilitic miasm. The syphilitic miasm is the one that dominates our syphilitic era, and many syphilitic constitutions are frequently indicated in chronic cases. First of all, we will talk about the characteristics of the syphilitic miasm in comparison with the characteristics of the psychotic and the psoric miasm. We have the psoric or yin miasm tendency, general tendency, the psychotic and the syphilitic. The psychotic is the young tendency. The psoric miasm, when it comes to general tendency about principles, adopts strict principles and moral principles. Adopts ideologies, political ideologies, religious or philosophical ideologies, and is strictly attached to these principles in a fixed way. He feels bad if he doesn't act according to his ideology, according to his principles. He tries to be honest with his principles, and he is attached to these principles. Being so attached to these principles, he is the easy victim of the syphilitic individual. Why? Because the syphilitic individual may either reject all kinds of principles and declare himself a person that is above principles, Or he may use these, any kind of principles, not believing in them, but declaring that he is a great believer in order to manipulate other people, and especially the psoric ones that are attached to such principles. So the psoric individual strongly believes and is attached to moral principles. The psychotic individual doesn't care about principles, not that he is negative about principles, against principles. He doesn't care. He cares about his fun, his enjoyment, and anytime any principle spoils his tendency for enjoyment, he will be against, he will react, but he will not start a philosophical system against any kind of principle. He is shallow and superficial when it comes to thinking and philosophies. His philosophy is make the most of life, enjoy life. The syphilitic person uses principles most of the times. When it comes to action, when it comes to the thinking, the psoric has slow thinking, organized thinking, and stable thinking. While the psychotic has quick thinking, changeable, and superficial. He is not much of a thinker. He is the physical type, the Neanderthal type, instead of the sophisticated type, the philosophical type. What about the thinking, the thought of the syphilitic individual? His thinking is quick, he is smart most of the times, or should we say cunning. Smart, quick, cunning, deliberate thinking, exaggeration, deliberate thinking, exaggeration, egoistic thinking, or self-centered, and manipulation, and perverted thinking. So, in general, what characterizes the syphilitic individual is perversion, exaggeration, egoism, deliberate action, serving his egoism and manipulation most of the times. What about emotions? The psoic miasm has deep emotions, stable emotions, sincere emotions, and deep, stable, and sincere emotions, and he doesn't express his emotions easily. While the psychotic individual has superficial emotions, changeable and superficial and changeable. The emotions of the syphilitic are again fake most of the time due to manipulation, exaggerated, egoistic, perverted, deliberate. Behavior. Sincere, not so, his behavior is sincere, is according to the intellectual patterns of society, according to the prevailing intellectual patterns of society. He wants to be good, a good citizen, a good husband or wife, a good children, and so on, a good student. His behavior is according to the prevailing intellectual patterns of society, according to his ideology. He is reserved most of the times, is not so expressive, and he has a sincere behavior. His final behavior is according to what he believes. What you see is what you get. He is not faking towards his behavior. His primary behavior is the same with his secondary behavior most of the times. The psychotic behavior is intense most of the times, and by intense I mean he is intense in action or intense in boredom. And his behavior is changeable and tends toward enjoyment, superficial enjoyment. The syphilitic behavior has all the above characteristics: exaggeration, deliberate action, egoistic, manipulative behavior, perverted behavior, fake behavior. What about the physical, the body? Cold, slow, hypofunction, the opposite for psychotic individual: hot, quick, hyperfunction, and here we have atrophy, Here we have hypertrophy. And here we have perversion and distraction. Perversion and destruction of the tissues. Perversion of the function, destruction of the anatomy of the tissues of the organs. And of course malfunction, perversion of the function. It's time to see something special about the syphilitic miasm, and the psoric one also. We have to understand what is the primary behavior and the secondary behavior. It is very important in order not to have mistakes on writing down and deciding the characteristics or symptoms of our patient during the case taking, the homeopathic case taking. First of all, there is a hierarchy, a ranking, when we talk about characteristics or symptoms. According to the hierarchy of the human being, you have to have the hierarchical list, that is miasmatic, synthesis of the person, miasms, miasmatic characteristics, the constitutional, psychological characteristics, the essence, the non-verbal data, the general physical characteristics. This concerns the chronic illness, that is, the state of clinical health. Clinical health. And then we have the psychological symptoms, the symptoms that we have during the acute illness, the general physical symptoms, then the keynote symptoms, and then the non-specific, the local symptoms or non-specific, non-characteristic symptoms. This concerns the acute illness. These are the more important with this list, with this hierarchy, and then come this. In classical miasmatic constitutional homeopathy, we deal more with the miasmatic, constitutional, essence, non-verbal data, and general physical characteristics. We don't focus on these except from the acute illnesses, but our prescription is mostly a chronic prescription for chronic illness with chronic constitutions, chronic remedies. it is important to understand that apart from this hierarchical ranking, there is another ranking as concerns man. This ranking is according to the hierarchy of the human levels. First is psychology, and then is vital force, and then is the physical body. Then comes the physical body. There is a hierarchy of the psychological symptoms. First, you have the general tendency of the person. His will, his intentions and will. Kant said that is man is will and understanding. General tendency. Then we have thinking, emotions, primary behavior, and secondary behavior. What we value most is first his will and his intentions, because according to what a man decides to be, wants to be, desires to be, his intentions define the way of thinking, the emotions that can be caused by this thinking, the behavior that will result from these emotions, the primary and the secondary behavior. If what you see is what you get, then the primary and the secondary behavior are the same. If I am angry because I thought of something happened, I started thinking that I was insulted, I had the emotions of anger, and if I express my anger just like that, straightforward, then my primary and secondary behavior are the same. But if I get angry and will not show my anger, or will cover my anger, or I will pretend to be very calm and happy instead of showing that I am angry and unhappy, then I have a secondary behavior that doesn't suit the primary behavior. Why is this so important? Because most of the times people have learned to adopt a mask, an image towards other people. And this is true for the patient towards the doctor. If you prescribe for the secondary behavior, and this secondary behavior is the same with the primary, there is no problem. But if you prescribe for a secondary behavior that is different or quite the opposite of the primary behavior, then you got it all wrong, you were fooled by the patient, and you will prescribe another remedy different from the similitude. So it's very important to be able to distinguish between primary and secondary behavior. Nowadays, in the syphilitic era that we live in, the syphilitic constitutions prevail and are the most frequent. And one of the characteristics of the syphilitic miasm, as we have told before, is that he wants to manipulate people. In order to manipulate others, her children, her husband, or his husband, his wife, or others at the professional level or at the political level or the society level, then he adopts several kinds. The syphilitic constitutions tend to adopt several different kinds of secondary behavior. So if as a doctor you believe what the patient says, whatever he says, then you are lost. You have mistaken the secondary behavior as being the primary. And if there is a difference, you have prescribed wrongly. Lachesis is one of the most frequent and very deep syphilitic constitutions. So it's very important to discriminate between the usual secondary behavior of a Lachesis patient with her primary or his primary behavior. We will see this in certain specific examples. So let's go on. We will do the same scheme, we will follow the same scheme of analyzing, of description, as in the past description of the other two constitutions. Because in classical miasmatic constitutional homeopathy that we teach here in the Homeopathic Academy, what's important is to think in a holistic way and to teach in a holistic way and according to the homeopathic and universal laws. Only then we are scientific and we are closer to the truth and reality. So we start, our aim is to give the student the chance to identify the picture, the clinical picture of a certain, the constitutional picture of a certain constitution. That is, to get the picture of the influence of a certain constitution to the human being. In the same way that in allopathic medicine, in our internal pathology books, we describe the pathological picture of a certain disease to the human being, to all human people that have that got ill from this disease. That is, we describe the results of a certain pathological path. In the same way, in homeopathy, we describe the effect on human being of the energy pathological path of the constitution, we describe the constitutional pathological picture on the soul and on the body from constitutions. Our internal pathologies in homeopathy are the materia medica descriptions. So, our aim always in the classical miasmatic constitutional homeopathy is the essence of the constitution and the whole psychological profile. So, what is the essence of Lachesis? If you grasp the essence, you know everything about any constitution. What is the essence of Lachesis? The essence of Lachesis is the syphilitic miasm. In the same way that the essence of the Constitution Mentorinum is the psychotic miasm. So, we could say that I have classified chronic constitutions according to certain clinical criteria. So we have the syphilitic constitutions. One of them is Lachesis, the typical representative of the syphilitic miasm. We have the psychotic constitutions. We have the psoric constitutions. The intellectual constitutions. Clearly, Mentorim is not one of them because of his shallow relation with the mind. We have the irritable constitutions. We have the constitutions that are full of fears, and so on. This is a clinical criteria because that's what is more useful in everyday clinical practice. So, today we will talk about one of the syphilitic constitutions. Lachesis is one of the main, yet there are also other syphilitic constitutions like arsenicum, like the hysteric constitutions, lilium digrinum, moschus, tassafoetida, semisifuga, actera chemosa, and other syphilitic constitutions that we will talk in due time. So, the essence of Lachesis is the syphilitic miasm and all the characteristics that we have all referred before. What are these? Self-centered, deliberate action, perversion, distraction, exaggeration, manipulation. These are the main characteristics of the syphilitic miasm. So, having these in mind, we will start describing Lachesis in all fields of psychological behavior and in the physical functions. Let's start with irritability. We will see that when it comes to behavior, we have many kinds of different and most of the time quite opposing final behavior, secondary behavior. So when it comes to irritability, you may see that Lachesis may present herself as very irritable or very calm, exaggeration. If she projects the image to the others, to society and to her own people, that she is a very religious and kind and good person, that loves all the world, all others, and believes in God, then he will adopt the secondary behavior of the calm and good person. And she will present herself as being very, very calm. Why bother? Why get angry? Christ said that we have to love all other persons, and even if one hits us on the one cheek, we will turn the other cheek and say, okay. This is a secondary behavior. She is not calm inside, but in reality, but she projects the image of the calm and religious person, the image, the secondary behavior of being quite calm. So you'll see all kinds of behavior in the extreme, and she projects this image and is proud of this image. Yet, on the other hand, if she is a person that has not much of an education, a common housewife, or a person that sells vegetables in the flea market, she may, or if she is a prostitute, a woman prostitute, she may project the secondary image of the person that is very, the woman that is very strong, psychologically dynamic, and that she may curse and express her anger and send all others to hell. She sells her vegetable, there comes another woman, a sophisticated one, a rich one, and wants to buy some tomatoes. And she may take the tomato and see if it is okay, and put it down, take another one, say another one, and then the Lachesis woman that sells these tomatoes will say, "What are you doing there, you old tricky cow. What do you think you do with my tomatoes? You spoil my tomatoes. Either take it or leave it. Go up. And she may turn to all other people in the market and say, look at her. You old tricky cow, what are you doing there? Aren't you ashamed? What are you looking? Are you trying to find gold? These are tomatoes, they are good tomatoes. Take it or leave it. Get the hell out of my sight. You see, exaggeration, presentation to others, that, what are you? And so on. So, we may have quite opposite, phenomenically, quite opposite behaviors, extreme behaviors, of being religious, kind and calm, or of being very strong and expressing her irritability and being proud to be irritable. And if you ask her, she says, I'm not irritable, others make me angry, furious. So you see, the primary behavior is mostly to become angry for many things, because if you have attachments, if you are self-centered and you want to manipulate others and do things your own way, if you want to have a universe around you, that you rule it, and you want things to be done according to your egoistic way, then you will easily get angry, because life has its own flow and doesn't care about your will, especially about your egoistic will. So you will, most of the times, have fights with your husband, with your children, with your colleagues, with all the society. And if you all the time want to manipulate things, you will hit your head on the wall all of life all the time. I am talking about the Lachesis individual, and all the time I use her, because it is almost completely, almost 100% a female constitution. And it is a female constitution because most of the times it suits female characteristics of our times and of past times. Let me go on and see some other fields of psychological characteristics. Let me complete. What are the main reasons that make a Lachesis woman angry, according to what we said? If her children will not follow her will and her demands, and whatever she says, do this way, I know better. You don't know, you're a child, you are small, do it my way, in details. If their children will not marry what she wants you to marry, the person she wants you to marry. If her children don't choose the profession that she wants her children to follow. If her children are not religious as she pretends to be, and so on, then she is angry. If her husband doesn't do the same and isn't as she wants him to be, if her husband is not a subject of her manipulation, then she gets angry. If other people don't accept her as the person that she projects, she pretends to be, she gets angry. If someone understands what she's doing, that she's pretending, and she reveals her pretension, her false image, then she gets furious. If someone exposes her role playing. So she easily gets angry from all these kinds of reasons. Whenever her manipulation tactics does